Transformers 2, Revenge of the Pointless by PointlessHub. I very much enjoyed the last one. I apologize for a little bit of a break between the two. I kind of went on vacation and had a lot going on, but I'm very curious because I don't remember anything past the first Transformers movie. I'm very curious what these movies are and what he has to say on the subject. It's gonna be a good one. Yeah, I feel that.
Help! I've fallen, and I can't get revenge.
What?
On those stairs. Is this bit working? Transformers Revenge of the Fallen. Do I even need to introduce this? This seems like it's the easiest target in the world. Every opinionated channel has come and went professing the gospel that this movie is stupid doo-doo garbage. It's cynical, has some interesting depictions of certain groups,
Why don't you get a haircut with your bitch ass?
and is way too horny than a movie about Hasbro robots should be.
Finish that for me.
And trust me, I'm going to take a few swings at the whole punching bag too for that easy quality content. But I also want to be somewhat fair, and if there is anything of merit to be said about this movie, then I'll let you know.
Okay. I think that's a fair way to approach it, though. Is giving it a fair
Transformers 1
shake.
for me was peak fiction.
Are you playing those video games again?
Big robots, action, Call of Duty.
Enemy AC-130 above.
So when it was announced that there was going to be another movie, it instantly was at the top of my must-watch list. Burger King drinks had The Fallen slapped right on them,
Oh, no.
and I was guzzling. I was ready for Transformers 2, and then it came out. I had the strangest feeling leaving the theater. I just watched a movie, and it wasn't as good as I was hoping it would be. What could this feeling be? Disappointment? This was the first time he had ever been failed by a franchise.
Mojo, no dominating Frankie.
First time?
You see, this movie kind of has a unique place in my heart, as it was the first time I was excited and let down by a sequel.
Okay.
Sure, today as an adult man, I'm used to every franchise I once enjoyed fumbling right into irrelevancy, ruining what I once enjoyed about them in the first place. But man, it's true what they say, you never forget your first.
I mean, yeah, you really don't. I mean, it's like how I've watched a number of games kind of die, right? Like Naruto Blazing, Naruto ZCG, Legend of the Five Rings. I watched that die twice, specifically AEG's TCG L5R, and then L5R, the LCG, which they made a couple of years ago, and then that was around the Varus time. But I always reference L5R kind of dying because, well, I guess Naruto went first. Point being, yeah, it very much is, it sticks in your brain because it's your first interaction with it. And I think it also is your biggest disappointment, right? Like, it kind of snowballs from there, and you know what the actual crux of the issue is.
Both were still Transformer movies, both had the same cast, yet the reception was quite different. What could it possibly be? It was the script. The script was bad.
The fallen shall rise again. That doesn't sound good.
Oh, shiver my timbers! Shut up, man!
In fact, it's kind of a fun fact regarding Transformers 2, how it was written during the 2007 writer's strike. Michael Bay in 2011 came clean about how he felt Transformers 2 sucked because of that strike. He said they only had 3 weeks to come up with the story, which to many, just everyone kind of shrugged and was like, wow, that explains it. This was something everyone can kind of just wipe their hands clean of because it was an extraordinary event. But
So I kind of write off Call of Duty in a similar vein, right? I mean, back in my day, back in the oldie days, I mean, Call of Duty, used to mean something, right? Like, you were excited. I was excited for old Modern Warfare 2. I know Modern Warfare 3 had a mixed reception. I've never truly played it. That is something that I will play at some point. I need to go through all the older Call of Duties at some point. But it's one of those, like, as Call of Duty progressed over the years, I just expected less and less. So I kind of understand it, though. And, like, yeah, it's one of those, like, Black Ops 7 releasing recently. You kind of just throw up your hands. You're like, yeah, it makes sense that this might have been written by ChatGPT giving us a Call of Duty story, right? Like, it's one of those things that makes sense with what surrounds the event, right? And I think that really is just unfortunate because these IPs deserve better. They deserve time and care. And I also think it's a little dirty to kind of blame it on the writer's strike as well. Destiny 2, during Heresy, didn't have some voice lines in it when it launched because of voice actor strikes, right? And it's one of those, I don't know enough about the writer strikes circa 2007, much as I don't know enough about the voice actor strikes circa 2024, 2025, right? I think that was more with generative AI trying to, pay them a pittance to use their voice and likeness for all eternity, effectively, which I have very firm disagreements with any company or corporation who'd want to do that. But I mean, I think this is a good example of when art becomes too corporatized, and also why we shouldn't rely on crunch culture and rush culture. Oh, but Kip, Halo 2 was rush culture and crunch culture. Majora's Mask, one of your favorite games of all time, was crunch culture and rush culture. You'd absolutely be correct. But when I do talk about them and how they were made under a crunch culture and crunch period, that should not be the norm or the expectation. Sure, we can get works out of it, but ultimately, it's not fair or moral or ethical, in my opinion. I'm getting into the weeds here a little bit. There's a number of conversations that branch off from this. It's very interesting that the blame was put on the strikes in particular, but there's probably more around the situation that I just don't have context for.
Here's the thing, and coming a little closer, I don't think the strike really contributed that much to this film sucking. Or at least as people think. Look, I get it. The strike had tremendous ripples in Hollywood. Entire productions were shut down, Lost was ruined, many television studios were on hold. It made waves. But it also only lasted 100 days.
Okay.
That's still a long time for television.
Well, yeah.
It can derail some projects on a time schedule, but I don't think it derailed this one.
I actually like that he's going into this, because this actually, yes, this is unfortunately one of those, you paused, Kip, just should have let it keep going. I should have. I didn't know if he was going to cover the context behind it. I'm very glad he's adding this context.
At least to the extent that some may think. Yes, it's true production of Revenge of the Fallen began without a finished script, but this isn't the most unheard of thing in filmmaking.
For 2 or 3 hours, trying to figure out what we're going to shoot that day. There was no script. The crew would be in there tapping their foot waiting for us, and we'd be in there, playing each other's parts and improvising. John would be calling writer friends of his.
And it's not like they didn't have anything to go off of as well. Revenge of the Fallen was written by Aaron Kruger, Roberto Orci, and Alex Kurtzman. All three knew that the strike was coming up, so they had to come up with a brief days before the strike happened. What it seems like it was is they wrote out the initial plot and where it should go. Michael Bay then went on to write 60 pages of a script, as he called it, which, hint hint, may also lead to another issue.
That's a penis.
After the strike was done, they still spent 6 months revising the script before shooting, locked in a hotel room, as they said, by Bay himself. I don't think I'm ready to fully blame the strike for every bad aspect that was kept in the script.
Hey, Professor, I'd do anything for an A.
Or even double down on. There were still decisions made that still happened because the writers just wanted them to. It kind of seems like Bay was going, oh yeah, that last movie, it was bad. We all agree it was bad, but that was outside of our control. This new movie, though, is gonna be far better. And then he went on to make Dark of the Moon. Oh, and Transformers 4 and 5. Same writers, too.
I didn't even know they made a 5.
Inventor.
Let's look at these writers' filmography, shall we? Star Trek, Star Trek Into Darkness, Cowboys and Aliens, The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Now it's time for me to light my candles.
The Mummy. Alex Kurtzman himself then went on to famously write Star Trek Discovery and Picard, and he has another Star Trek treat on the way.
What?
Yeah, while Bay blames the strike for why the movie wasn't executed as well, let me say, I truly believe deep down that this movie wasn't going to be skyrocketing past that 7 out of 10 anyway. Michael Bay movies have always had a kind of, I don't know, for lack of better words, asshole nature about them. Like, nobody ever really gets along in a lot of Bay movies.
Oh, don't be like that. If I had a rock, I'll bust your head, bitch.
Which sometimes can really work, especially in regards to comedy. Yet that tone just doesn't work for Transformers.
Why don't you get a haircut with your bitch ass?
In each preceding Transformers sequel only deteriorates into a bunch of annoying idiots bickering back and forth. Characters will fight for literally no reason at all, sometimes to just progress the plot. You can't take the elements of a cynical, mean-spirited world
How about I park my foot in your ass?
and then wrap them up with Optimus looking off into the sunset, saying some vaguely heroic monologue about how humanity is just so darn great. No, Optimus, I disagree. Humans, as Michael Bay writes them, really suck.
Yeah?
This tone only gets worse with each preceding movie until eventually no characters get along, not even the Autobots. By 4 and 5, it seems like they despise each other.
I almost feel like this is a product. So how much of this is the actual writing and how much of this is corporate interference, right? Like how much of this is, yes, I'm investor 23 and I think asset 479B very much had a presentation with the characters fighting amongst each other. I mean, I don't know what Hollywood is like, if I'm being honest. Maybe I'm giving too much credit to the investors. Maybe I'm giving too much credit to the writing team. I don't know where that really falls. It really feels like this reminds me of what I've heard of Thor. Was it Thor Love and Thunder? Where it was whatever the director of that was, kind of like, is it Taika Waititi? I don't remember. But how like his isms kind of were accentuated into Thor Love and Thunder, and like how that movie came out in the way it did compared to the prior Thor movies, right? This feels very much like uncalled progression, if that makes sense, right? Like, not necessarily like the Ouroboros snake eating its own tail. Not that, you know, Bay and his isms are kind of eating upon himself, but just that, cool, what works? Oh, yeah, just you know, robots and people fighting amongst each other and kind of being jerks to each other, right? And then it kind of progresses to its natural conclusion where nobody gets along with each other, right? Like, it kind of like, it prunes itself in that direction is, I guess, what I'm trying to really throw out there.
What the crap before I drop a grenade down your throat?
He's like a child.
This child is about to kick your ass.
But we'll get to those travesties when we get to them. Alright, enough vague notions of writing and tone. What actually happens in this bad boy?
I mean, I haven't seen this movie.
In the last movie, we learned the vehicle
Gundam.
Gundams came to Earth because their Jesus Cube fell to the planet thousands of years ago. In search of it, the leader of the Bamboozle Bots, Meta Knight, came to Earth and crash-landed in front of Shia LaBeouf's grandpa, zapping him with interstellar knowledge. Well, it turns out that was all a lie.
Okay.
That's right. The Transformers, as it turns out, have been here for thousands of years.
I mean, that's a retcon, let's be honest, right? Like, you could argue that's progression, but that's very much like, oh, by the way, this is the story we're telling now, right? Like, this isn't like, so in Star Wars, right? Like, why does Palpatine work? Because, oh, Vader throughout, you know, Star Wars Episode 4, oh my god, I'm blanking on the name right now. A New Hope, and I mean, the Emperor's kind of alluded to in 5, right? Empire Strikes Back, right? But the Emperor is kind of the big threat in Return of the Jedi, right? So why would something like him work? I guess I'm maybe likening apples to oranges. Like, I'm talking in the same like vein of like plot progression, but two different things, because that has to do specifically with putting all of your emotion on a replacement character. Like, I guess this is kind of like similar to a new game comes out and it's like, grats, yeah, the thing we told you in the last game is not true, right? Like, this is just not how this works, right? Or it actively retcons things, right? I'm trying to find a good example offhand. I guess so, like Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 Remake, right? They diverge from Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3. But like Resident Evil 2 and 3 Remake are kind of their own timeline type thing, right? For all intents and purposes, right? Like, there's definitely discrepancies and things that change from the originals into the remake, but we can also like understand that like that's kind of just remake isms, right? Or having Las Plagas function maybe a little differently with like the Blackwater Resident Evil 4 remake, right? You have a Vertigo showing up, turning into the U3, right? The other Vertigo in separate ways, right? So what I'm trying to really nail down is, when are retcons acceptable versus not acceptable? And I think that this is a prime example of not acceptable, because you show up and it's like, does it make sense? Why did you have the first movie build this up then? the retcons get used to them in live action Transformers movies. I mean, where does your audience have a reference point, though? At least for the Resident Evil 2 and 3 remakes, you can still reference Raccoon City and the events that happen in Raccoon City, RPD for Resident Evil 2 remake and whatever Jill's doing in RE3 remake, right? Like, you at least have a reference point. This kind of just takes the events of the first movie and throws that all out the window. You can big reveal. You can, have reliable narrators say, Ruby Volume 6, right? Jin, tell us about the things. What is Ozpin hiding from us, right? And then you have reliable narrators say, okay, everyone has their different viewing points. This is exactly what happened with Salem. This is exactly what Ozpin is hiding. This is as this is, right? You can rely on your reliable narrator, right? You can have that, omniscient entity kind of, push the plot along, and it has to be done correctly. But in a situation like this, where this is just a blatant retcon, why did the first movie even matter then? You're not building on anything from it. Why did this have to be a sequel? And you're immediately going to rub your audience the wrong way.
Ever since civilization began, they've been here, putting their own symbols on ancient ruins to influence humanity, making pyramids.
Buy crypto, suckers!
Why is
Amazing.
the lore of Transformers so familiar? Could it be? No, it's not true. Oh no, world's melding. We've gone
happening.
beyond the looking glass. Realities are merging. Make it stop. So yeah, Transformers were ancient aliens the whole time.
Okay.
Meanwhile, in the present, Optimus and the Autobots have teamed up with the ATF because the Decepticons forgot to pay their taxes.
What? Not the ATF.
The encounter leads to so much collateral damage, it would make your average GTA player blush. Like, damn. Imagine you're driving home from work, thinking about the day-to-day, when suddenly your existence is snuffed out by Big Wheel from Spider-Man. For
Okay.
caring so much about humanity, the death of these innocents really doesn't seem to weigh on you, Optimus.
Not today.
One thing that's funny is that China doesn't seem to mind Americans coming into Shanghai. These are all Nest operatives, but when it's Hong Kong in trouble, I guess then it's perfectly fine for the Chinese to come on in. Man, I wish that was just a joke and not a key feature of Transformers 4. This
What?
wreck and ominous warning is further elaborated on once everyone gets back to Nest headquarters. This
Okay.
Fed chastises Optimus, saying that there's only one real reason why the Decepticons are still here, to hunt the Autobots. This is the first instance of human authority distrusting the giant robots, who are very clearly the protagonists. It's a very common plot point in Michael Bay Transformers, which only gets worse off from here. This agent guy expositions so hard he gives away the location of the Allspark fragment that is under tight security.
Decepticons,
Come
we have
on.
located the shard.
Good job, bozo. Soundwave hears this and sends his wolf thing. Yeah, you probably wouldn't have known this was Soundwave, because they look and sound nothing alike.
I mean, that also feeds into... So, on one hand, if you're doing an adaptation or you're doing something, right? Like, it's okay to kind of reinvent the wheel or reinvent designs. Or like, oh, I'm trying to find a good example. Some of the dwarves in The Hobbit, right, look vastly different than some of the dwarves we ended up seeing in Lord of the Rings, right? I think part of that has to do with, wasn't Guillermo del Toro, wasn't he supposed to direct the Hobbit trilogy? And then for some reason he left, and then Peter Jackson kind of came back and he had to pick up the pieces. And so that's kind of why you get like, the goblins in Goblin Town, and they look so different as to some of the orcs we see in Battle of the Five Armies. That seems like that was stitched together with blood, sweat, and tears, if I'm being completely honest. I mean, if you're making an adaptation or something new, I mean, it's completely fine. Like, if you're redoing Frankenstein, right? A reimagining is fine. This is one of those where it's like, what? 1980s would be Transformers going into early late 2000s, right? Because 2007 writer's strike, so late 2000s, where it's like, 20 to 30 years later, and it's like, they have to adapt it in certain ways, especially for modern tech and stuff, but you don't have a reference point, right? I guess maybe him being a satellite can kind of key you in on it. Maybe. I don't know. Like, this one's a little bit of a weird one because, I mean, if you showed me this, I would have zero idea what this one's name would be, if I'm being completely honest, right? Like, to be fair, I also don't like Bumblebee. Kind of makes sense, right? And obviously you have your product placement with, I think it was a Chimera, right? Like Bumblebee kind of makes sense, right? You look at this and it's like, I don't know, listening post, I don't know, like what about its design reaches out to you? What gives Optimus Prime and Bumblebee, or even Starscream, right, or Megatron, what gives them appeal? What sells you about them? What makes them unique? What stops this from being Transformer number 27, right? And I think that lack of a reference point really ends up hurting it.
Decepticons, we have located the shard. Alert! Alert! Assistance required.
At least they made him look good in Bumblebee.
There. So chat says the reason they look so drastically different is because Michael Bay hated the classic designs and thought they were stupid. I mean, that kind of goes into like the same of like, if you don't like Halo, why are you developing for Halo? But then again, that's a weird one because everyone needs a job. People need a job. You don't necessarily have to enjoy your job, right? Like, I think there's a couple like isms there. Yeah, that's a weird one to unpack.
Anyway, Shia LaBeouf is going off to college.
Shia LaBeouf.
Baby booties.
Extreme goofy movie style. After discovering he had some Jesus Cube Cheeto dust on his old shirt, he accidentally turns all of his appliances into real boys.
There are no stings on me.
Bumblebee saves everyone from certain death, and as a reward gets chastised for his transgressions. Fine, should've just let him die. After leaving his family home in ruins and failing to commit to a relationship like the real gamer he is, Sam heads off to college.
Oh my god, this was when Megan Fox was everywhere, wasn't it? Wow, what happened to her?
His new roommate turns out to be a conspiratorial forum poster who spends way too much time on OnlyFans.
Nice.
And he sticks around the whole movie. Oh boy.
You landed on my testicles.
Sam sees symbols, starts to lose his mind. Turns out the cube gave him a computer
Not Bonzi,
virus.
buddy!
For those that don't know, a MacGuffin is a device or object that is the sole purpose of the plot. Something that every character wants. A crystal skull, Ark of the Covenant, an Allspark. Turns out what's blasted into his mind is the coordinates to the Matrix of Leadership. Everyone wants Sam because his brain has a map to the Matrix, and everything for 90% of the plot is related to these two in some way.
Sure.
Sam becomes a MacGuffin to find a MacGuffin thanks to another MacGuffin. We're in too deep. The Matrix can do a lot of things like bring Optimus back to life or turn on the pyramids. Is Optimus going to be brought back to life? Or is the Fallen going to suck the sun dry? I wonder how it ends. Probably should have killed Optimus while he was still weak. Fallen. Oh well. Can't win them all. At the end of the day, everyone smiles into the sunset. The Earth is saved. The only one lost was the girl robot, so oh well.
Weird. Okay.
I mean, where do you even begin? There are a few things I actually kind of like about this movie, so I guess we start there.
Kicking calendar, kicking calendar, kicking calendar, kicking calendar.
Sometimes the jokes actually land.
We went to get you a tighter shirt. There isn't a tighter shirt. We checked.
And yeah, you can never go wrong with John Turturro. He's a blessed shining light in the circle of hell.
One man! Alone!
Stop saying that.
Betrayed by the country he loves.
But what can really be said that isn't blatantly obvious or hasn't been run into the ground already?
Pussy.
The movie's way too horny and it's way too crass. It's a little bit of the racism word.
Oh, we don't really do much reading.
Oh.
Other than showing humping 3 times, Revenge of the Fallen really doesn't excel in anything uniquely bad.
I remember the dog scene, yeah. I vaguely remember that. I think someone else was watching and I ended up walking in when it was on like the living room or something. This movie's really strange, isn't it?
Considering how much worse these movies get, be it Dark of the Moon's ultra-violence, 4 being straight-up Chinese propaganda, or the 5th being Drunk in the Gutter.
God, I'm sozzled.
Any of the other problems that begin in this movie only get worse.
Give me your faithfulness.
I didn't mean to see that.
But there are a few flaws I want to focus on that I don't think anybody really has ever mentioned before. This movie kinda fucks up its own pacing within the first minute.
Okay.
Birthplace of the human race.
In the opening monologue, Optimus describes how Transformers have been on Earth for far longer than anyone has known. While today nobody cares about the lore of these movies, for a 2009 first-time viewer, doesn't this seem like a significant change to the status quo? Like, all of that backstory of why the Transformers were on Earth in the first place, they've actually been here for all of human history. This seems like it could have been built up as an interesting twist, doesn't it?
But that's the thing, you have to build into this, right? You can't just say, oops, by the way, the prior plot doesn't matter. They've been here all along, right? Like, you can't do that. You can't replace it, right? I mean, it very much is the Star Wars sequel trilogy, right? look, Palpatine did weirder in Legends, right? 100%. Somehow Palpatine returned, it, as I understand it, refers to the shoehorning in of the plot point without proper buildup, right? So in, episode 4, 5, 6, yeah, you knew that Palpatine was there and that Vader served Palpatine. You even see, him on the hologram when Vader makes a report, right? And then, it ends up transitioning into Vader redeeming himself, Luke and Vader against Palpatine, right? Like there's a flow there, right? Whereas, oh, by the way, somehow Palpatine returned. I think, it's not that Palpatine returned because he's done weirder in Legends. It's how it was presented and how it was shoehorned into the story. There wasn't the requisite setup. So it comes across as cheap, hollow, and corporate. Something like this comes across cheap, hollow, and corporate because the requisite setup wasn't there, and the setup from the prior movie was just thrown to the side or thrown in the fire or shredder, whichever one, right? Like, it just didn't matter. So you lose that progression.
Optimus even says,
"For in our quest to protect the humans, a deeper revelation dawns."
Like, he admits it's a revelation.
Revelation.
When does that revelation actually happen?
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying revelation too much. The Rapture's going to start. Does Optimus even find out that the Fallen was here before? He kind of just comes back to life and then blows up a pyramid.
Our races united by a history
No,
long
not
forgotten.
What are
my
you talking
God.
about, Optimus?
Oh, is that New Divide? Oh, wow.
Didn't really seem like it was a revelation for you. One major reason I think Transformers 2 doesn't work, outside of, well, everything else,
Haircut with your bitch ass.
is half of its plot is structured around a mystery we, the audience, already know the answer to.
Right, so
This
there's no
Decepticon
payoff.
ominously says the Fallen will rise again, and it takes every character out for a loop. What's the Fallen? That doesn't sound good. It's something nobody, even the Autobots, really understands. It's a little bit of a mystery for the characters. But you know who it's not a mystery for?
The audience.
The audience. Oh, the Fallen? I know that guy. He was stopping tribal people in the opening monologue. He snarled like an animal. But while that mystery is undermined, the Fallen sure doesn't help either.
I think it's really interesting to consider that. And what if we weren't given the full reveal, right? What if we were given just the foot crushing people and then, maybe like a sudden cut to black, right? Like, we weren't given, even if we weren't given no information, we weren't given all of the information, right? So we as the audience, so what is meant here is that it's supposed to be a reference point for the audience. That way, oh, well, we don't want the Fallen to come back because in the intro we saw them absolutely wreaking havoc, right? But maybe go for more of that, like, unseen kaiju kind of vibe, right? Where, like, oh, this monster exists, right? Like, we know this is a thing. Oh, we definitely don't want things like that to happen. Or, like, maybe we see, like, the foot crushing people, and then it goes to an aftermath of, like, I don't know, like ancient Egypt on fire, right? Keeping with the theme, right? Maybe a pharaoh, looks out over the destruction, kind of looks down. Maybe he fumbles with the MacGuffin or something like that, kind of tying into the story. Like, you build into it, right? You give your audience things to reflect on and piece together throughout the movie, rather than just like, grats, this is what the Fallen are. You don't want this coming, right? You don't want this to come back. And then, because then everyone else is playing catch up to where you're at. Is that enjoyable, right? If you're watching a sports ball game, and let's say you're watching a recording of it, and your buddy tells you, oh, this is what the next 15 minutes is going to offer you, are you going to enjoy the next 15 minutes, right? Like, you DVR'd the game so you could watch the game, right? Does it make sense if you know that so-and-so is going to make a pass to so-and-so, and they're going to score 3 times before they call a timeout? Do you like knowing that ahead of the time, or do you like watching that? And I think there's a big distinction there.
His design to voice,
Revenge is mine.
to demeanor, he's just so much less imposing than Megatron. This is supposed to be the original Decepticon, yet he's just so lame. Like, he's Megatron's aging grandpa.
Back in my day, we used to hunt for witches.
It's like Megatron got beaten up and now he's bringing his dad to the schoolyard. Not to even mention, what is he getting revenge for? I guess he's getting revenge against humanity, but humanity didn't even defeat him in the first place. The original Primes did, and they're dead. For being an even bigger bad than Megatron, he's just punched to death anyway.
So, and that's the thing, is what is it called? Intent unclear. I'm going to use intent. It's motivations. Motivations unclear. Why are you getting revenge? What are you getting revenge for? Does this make sense to your audience? It's fine to have a revenge story. My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die, right? We're fine with a revenge story. The stakes have to make sense, though, right? Like, build into that. And I feel like it is just a bunch of, like, wham, we just slammed a bunch of this on the table. Here this is. And it's really odd to look at.
Doesn't even kill any Autobots. He just goes after the US military. I mean, there's a lot that could have changed. I mean, they probably should have used the first design for him. Make him look like the Decepticon logo since he's the original one in the first place. Instead, it just looks like he wants to blow up Mata Nui. What else is on the list? Oh yeah, these two. What can even be said here? They existed.
I got the green. That hurt, man. It's supposed to hurt. It's an ass kick.
Comedic
Paramount
release.
and the good people at Hasbro all came together and looked at everything that was going on here.
I'm ugly, but we twins, you stupid genius.
And just went, yep, send it. It's like a social experiment. How many people can collectively go along with a horrendous abomination without speaking up? The answer is however many producers were involved with Transformers 2. I mean, what can really be said about Revenge of the Fallen? It's Transformers 1 in tone and atmosphere, but just infinitely worse. I'm tired. I genuinely don't think this movie's good, but here's my horrendous confession. The next movie, Dark of the Moon, is actually kind of a guilty pleasure of mine.
Okay.
I think I actually kind of like it.
Okay. Fair enough.
I just got an email from YouTube.
Oh no.
All my subscribers left.
What a banger wrap up. Oh, it looks like this got hit by copyright. I thought that this was amazing, honestly. I thought this was a good look into it. And I mean, my guilty pleasure, I mean, I watched The Hobbit Desolation of Smaug a lot, right? It's one of those I can put on in the background and watch. I think it was very much a film of the era, and I think it was the transitionary film between older cinematic and modern cinematic storytelling, some of the camera angles and cuts and stuff like that. I enjoy, that's my guilty pleasure movie. In all fairness, if we're being fair here, right? People like what they like. But I honestly thought this was kind of wild, if I'm being honest. And I can't wait to see what else is brought to the table, because I want to see where PointlessHub will, think it peaks in a certain capacity, and then it just kind of goes downhill from there with 4 and 5, which I didn't even know 5 existed. The fact that literal corporate entities looked at the funny robot duo and are just like, nah, send it. That's kind of wild. But I enjoyed this. Thank you, PointlessHub, for an amazing video. Thank you, everyone, for watching. I really do appreciate it. What is your favorite guilty pleasure movie? I will also say Dungeons & Dragons 2000, the one with Jeremy Irons. That is also guilty pleasure of mine. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you in the next one.